Would you mind telling me what your top 5 core values are?
Yeah, Jen, my core values are connectedness, authenticity,
Hmm.
intentionality, belonging, and influence.
Wow, fantastic. And could you tell me a little bit more about each of those in terms of what they mean to you? What does it mean? What does authenticity mean? What does connectedness mean?
Yeah. Yeah, connectedness for me is very relational. I feel a connection to other people just naturally,
Hmm.
and I am drawn to connect with other people pretty naturally. And then I like to connect other people together. So there's kind of a symbiotic nature to all of that, and that kind of leaves a lot into the authenticity piece. So it's not just good enough for me to be connected. I have to be connected on a pretty deep vulnerable level, and I'm always seeking that in relationships. I'm kind of the friend that always asks, like, hey, how's your marriage,
Hmm.
like as our starter question. Like, it's not, I don't beat around the bush with anything. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to the core of what's going on in your life, that kind of thing. And I'm looking for other people that are interested in doing that same thing. It's just something I kind of do naturally.
Hmm.
And then that also dovetails into something like intentionality, where I tend to be very intentional with the way I connect with other people, and how I seek out other people or seek out various things in my life.
Sure.
If I think about it, I want to make a kind of an intentional plan to move forward to it. I hate for the things that you just kind of go, man, I should do that. Like that. Wouldn't that be nice if I did that? I'm
Yeah.
somebody that tends to make a pretty intentional plan to move in a direction somewhere. Um, Belonging has to do with wanting others to feel a sense of belonging. Obviously, I think we all long for belonging and connectedness on some level. We're communal people, right?
Yeah.
We're not meant to be in isolation. And I think at the core, people really want to feel like they belong to something, to a group of people, they want to feel like they're contributing to something. That's all this very deep feeling, the sense of belonging. And I have a real value of trying to foster that in my own life,
Hmm.
in the relationships with people, in the way I set up my home, how I invite people into my home. It's all with this desire for people to feel like they're known and that they
Yeah.
belong somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the last one is influence. And I want to be an influencer. I tend to put myself in places of influence. That kind of manifests itself for me in like I'm an upfront person. I like to be the spokesman of different things.
Hmm.
I have found myself in that role throughout my life. And as I've named it as a value, though, I've started to actually recognize that I can make an intentional choice to put myself in that place, right?
Yeah.
And accept an invitation to be an upfront person, or in this case, as an influencer, as a coach. Like, I think that's where I have dovetailed into coaching myself, is because I like to influence others and be in that particular role in their life.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love that your values, and this is the same with someone else that I interviewed recently, that your values, that they're all things that you want for yourself, and then they're equally things that you want for other people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's great, and it's really admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly all the stuff that I've noticed about me, and it's the stuff I think I try to draw out in
Hmm.
other people, just because it's so natural as to who I am, right? So it's not, it's okay if people don't embody this, or that this isn't their values.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is just what drives me.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. And how, I mean, I think it's probably quite obvious, but how do those values come into your life purpose?
Yeah, I've named my life purpose as being to empower and equip women to live into their greatest potential. So to empower and equip women to live into their greatest potential. Now, that obviously plays itself out as a coach. I work
Hmm.
with women, and I work to influence and equip them and empower them in their life. That seems fairly obvious, but I do this. This is just a part, I think, of my everyday interaction with people. So like I said, when I try to connect with other people, I naturally kind of go to a deeper place with them, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the authenticity, vulnerability piece of it. And there's a level of wanting to draw out of somebody, empower somebody to live into who they are, by me drawing out like their authenticity and them being vulnerable with somebody else, you know? So there's kind of a natural way that I just go about my life, my conversations, my interactions as a wife, as a mom. I think that's all about kind of equipping and empowering others. And it's always with this kind of goal, like I want somebody to live into the greatest person that they can be. You know, that's my desire. If we were all living into the greatest person that we could be, the world would be a different place, right?
Yeah,
so,
it would.
that is, you know, feels grandiose, but it's not. You know, I feel like I have a little piece of that every time I connect with somebody. So
fantastic. And do you ever use your values to make decisions in life, or have there been times in your life where actually focusing on your values has really helped you to make a decision or to make a change in your life?
Definitely. I think the very nature of going through a process of really naming them, that was really, really life-giving and helpful at the time. And I still look at that experience of really diving deep into naming them as being something that really changed the trajectory of my life at the time, and still kind of shapes, I would say, who I am, because there was a lot of like light bulbs that went off through the process. There was like, oh yeah, I do naturally do that. I am naturally somebody that, you know, it fosters belonging in people's lives. Like I care, for some strange reason, I care about like connecting to strangers. I'm like the weird person at the park, the weird mom that's always trying to connect with other moms.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's because that is life-giving to me, but because I also realize that we're a tribe, you know, and I want to do that. So, I mean, I think I make unconscious choices to live into these all the time. But as soon as, like, for an example at the park, this could be a very easy thing that happens to me all the time, where it's like, oh, I could sit here. I have this moment where I'm like, I could sit here and watch my kids play and be quiet. Or I also see a mom over there sitting by themselves watching their kids play. I wonder if I just walked over there and sat next to her and started a conversation, if that, you know, what that would do, you know? And so if that thought crosses my mind, usually the next thought is, oh, well, that, of course that's better, because I value being connected and I want them to feel a sense of belonging. And it's going to take me being intentional in order to do that. You know, there's already three different, three of my values in that. And so, I'm quicker to recognize that and then make a choice to follow through, because I know that when I live into my values, I am filled up, you know, like my heart gets full and my cup gets to overflowing when I make choices to live into that.
Fantastic. And this isn't a question that I prepared you with, but actually, since we're talking, I've thought of this question, and I hope you don't mind me asking. But
of course.
Were there any value, when you first started to think about your values, were there any values for you that you thought, actually, this is something I want other people to think of me, but it's not necessarily core to me? Did that happen for you at all?
So it's not really a value of mine. It's more like, it's on the surface the way I want people to kind of view me.
Yeah.
You have to kind of weed through some of those, right? Because it's, of course, I want to be a good leader. Of course, I want to value productivity. Of course, you know, there's all sorts of things like that where I see in other people things that they're really good at. And it's like, oh man, if I could only be that way, then, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, I think of course I had to sift through that, and have to ultimately come to a place where you're okay with you know, and recognizing that when I live into me, I impact the world. When I try to be somebody else and embody somebody else's values that aren't kind of natural in me, there's going to be conflict in that, you know, internal conflict within that. It's never going to feel like a well-oiled machine, you know?
Yeah.
And then similarly, I had some values that surfaced that I didn't really like a whole lot. And it's not these 5, but there was several more that I kind of contemplated and that surfaced at different times. For example, status is one. Like I prefer to be seen, quite literally seen, as being on top. You know, I care about that. and I strive to be the person that is seen. That's part of the influencer in me, right? That's part of the value of wanting to influence others. And so when I recognized that it wasn't just the status that I cared about, it was wanting to be in a place that I got to be I get to have the most influence over people. That was really what the core of that was. It wasn't really status, though it plays itself out in status-like ways. I had to kind of sort through that a little bit, because who wants to say that they want all the power? I mean, that's a hard thing to admit to yourself, right? Like, I want to be on top.
Absolutely. That's really great. Thank you for sharing that. That's deep. Which you like.
That's right. I'm kind of an open book.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. I think I probably asked you enough questions there. So as I said at the beginning, to thank you for your time as well. If you want to tell me and whoever else might be watching this interview what you do and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a life coach for working moms that have really gone back to work. And once they've gone back to work, they've realized they don't really know who they are anymore. And there's something that comes naturally, I think, with motherhood, where you lose a bit of your identity. You're kind of not sure anymore what your goals are. The trajectory of life feels really different. It's really confusing, isolating, and you feel very stuck in that spot. And so I help working moms to really identify who they are and what they want in life now that they're a mom, and how their kids are kind of included in all of that. So I really want them to walk away from our time together feeling confident in who they are, so that they never second guess their decisions as a mom, or even just as a person. And I want them to feel really clear about where they want to go, and then together we create a plan on how to move in that direction together. So we do that all through a 4-month program together that I kind of walk them through a step-by-step process on how to gain that confidence, clarity, and plan.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
And so if anybody's watching this who's a mum, how can they contact you?
Yeah, you can go, easiest place is to my website, www.RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com. Pretty easy, RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com. And you can check out the work that I do. You can also book a free breakthrough call from my website as well, where that will give us a chance to really start the process of getting clear and seeing if some kind of coaching relationship makes sense.